Hey Claire,
Hey.
how are you doing this November season?
Well, at the time of this recording, it is right before Thanksgiving break, and it's all the things, as you know, with your kids, like all the Thanksgiving meals at their school, which there happens. I have three children. They have three different feasts. Two of them happen at the same time at two different schools.
Oh no.
So haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Okay, I
Um,
have a question for you. So this is my first school Thanksgiving feast, and each grade is assigned like a type of dish, like a side or a
okay.
main. But this
Yeah.
makes me very nervous because there's like bad experiences with potlucks with people like getting sick. Do you trust the food at these Thanksgiving feasts? Because I don't know who made the yams.
I 100% trust the food. I go all in. Yep.
And have no regrets.
And no regrets. I mean, you could always do the smell test where you
Mm,
smell it first. If it smells weird, don't eat it. I mean, that's how I live.
I like it.
Although I was just helping out set up one of the feasts, and one of the moms was like, "Yeah, I was making the something." And she's like, "And I smelled it." I was like, "This doesn't smell right." And before I added the rest of the ingredients, I realized the cream cheese had gone sour. I was like, "I'm so glad you figured that out." And she's like, "Yeah, me too." So there's that.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many variables here at play, and one dish can make the whole school get sick.
So here's the thing though, heat kills a lot of things.
Hmm.
So maybe if you're concerned, then you should just go with the dishes that are still at the temperature that they should be. So if
Mm.
the meat is still warm, it's probably still good. Or if the pasta salad is still cold, probably still good. There
You
you
heard it here.
go.
How to not get sick from a Thanksgiving potluck. Stay safe out there.
If a kid sneezes on it,
Ew.
don't eat it.
But I'm actually really excited because they've been promoting this event as like a community gathering. So all the parents are coming together. I think it'll be so fun to see everybody sitting together in the gym. They're gonna like have all the decorations and the tables. There was a musical performance this morning where my little one, the 4-year-old, sang a song about ducks. And then the older one had like the classic Disney songs. So it's been fun to get involved with the school and have like that community piece to it.
Yes, I'm so glad they do it. It's really stressful for the teachers, especially teacher
Mhm.
moms, but it's just part of it. So it's okay. Probably should have thought about that before having kids and like planned out their spacing a little bit better so that no, it's all good.
Yeah, it's just going to get more complicated, right? As they get into sports and music and all the extracurricular activities, you're going to have to invest in two of you.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't figured all that out yet.
Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, so on today's podcast, I thought we should go to our teachers who are in the STEM Space Facebook group, and they asked some really great questions. Whenever they first sign on, we ask teachers, tell us about your role, what do you teach, and then what is your greatest challenge? So I thought, Claire, we could tackle some of these today.
Let's do it for a Thanksgiving special.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I would pick the one I can't pronounce. So this comes from Folaki Adebi, and she says that she's been teaching STEM for over 20 years.
Ooh.
It has been watered down from what it was. Everyone teaches STEM now, including people that do not know what the acronym stands for. Help.
Oh man. So, first of all, teaching STEM for 20 years, like, what does that even mean? Like, how did she teach STEM 20 years ago?
So I think that's where the use of the acronym is confusing, and we might have to unpack that because STEM really didn't come into the curriculum like late 2010, 2015. as an acronym that's bringing in engineering.
Mhm.
So perhaps she's a dedicated science teacher or a math teacher, or maybe taught engineering as a separate elective. I have no context here if this is a high school or elementary teacher. So that would be my first thought, is like she probably means each subject separately.
Yeah, okay. So she's probably thinking it's watered down now because we're trying to combine things, and so we're losing some of the actual learning in the different disciplines, which is true. We see a lot of people trying to teach science through STEM projects, and we don't advocate for that. Or teaching math through STEM projects. Not as many people do that because that's kind of hard to do. STEM really should be focused more on the engineering, and then you are practicing by applying the science and math concepts that you should have already learned. So it's reinforcing the individual subjects, but also adding on the engineering sciences. Is that
Yeah,
what you would say, Natasha?
I agree. And I think we've talked about it before, this idea that STEM has taken over science class and watered it down and turned it into these really fun, engaging hands-on activities, but what are we teaching the students? What are they walking away from? So I would agree, and I think it comes back to administration and how you're creating the classrooms and where you're putting STEM. STEM fits really nicely in a science class, maybe at the end of the unit to apply, like you said, the topic of that unit to a really exciting hands-on engineering design challenge. So kids take that and they're like, oh, this is how I would use it in the real world. But it can't replace all of science education. And there is some shift happening.
Yeah, so advice for her would probably be to go to her admin and say, "Well, what's the point? What do you want us to focus on? Let's make sure that we're hitting those goals first." And if it is replacing some things that like replacing science in the science classroom, then that needs to be addressed. If it is just something that's additional, well, that's great. Figure out what the target is for that. Just listing out your learning goals would be really important there.
I agree. Okay, so our next question is from Adrian, who is a 612 educator, so 6th through 12th grade. Coding and VEX robotics is their experience with STEM. And their challenge is recruiting the right students for STEM and increasing visibility of STEM programs.
Ooh, I like your grin there because you know what I'm about to say.
I was trying to stay neutral.
You can't do that by saying the right students. Who is
Yep.
the right students for
Ooh,
STEM? This is like when people say, well, this is more for my GT kids. Quit it.
stop.
We've had this kind of like rant before where I didn't know this, that we shared this thing in common about when we were in school, elementary or whatever, and
Yeah,
then we didn't get into the GT program.
right.
I still want to take that test again and see if I can get in. uh, but I really feel like we are doing more harm than good by separating students based on whatever we are imagining they should be fit into some sort of peg, square peg. Is that whatever I'm trying to say?
I
You know what
got
I'm
you.
trying to say? Yeah.
And then there's
Uh,
something about GT being synonymous with STEM because you can be gifted in many different things. And gifted students shouldn't be automatically tracked into STEM. Like we both weren't in GT and we're engineers.
mhm. Yeah. And oftentimes the real GT kids, it's because they really like to work alone, and that is not what we need in STEM. We need more collaborators. We need better communicators. We need all the people, everybody, all the perspectives. So don't attract the right kind of students, attract all the students. And the way you can do that is by promoting it, saying that you belong in STEM if you want,
Yeah,
and it's available to you.
absolutely. Okay. Ooh, fun name. Shaz is a primary teacher, so elementary educator, and their greatest challenge is an overload of resources.
Mm. Yeah, I would agree that there is a lot out there that's labeled as STEM, and we talk about this a lot when we talk about our 3 stages of STEM and why we have that as a way of thinking about different types of STEM lessons, where they're not all the same. They're not all big projects or robotics competitions. They can also be focusing on teamwork. That's the stage 1. And then stage 2 is that engineering design challenges. Stage 3 is those big projects that are long-term, add in research. Maybe there's a competition, judging involved. But, that overload tends to overwhelm people if you don't know what to look for first. We're not looking for craft projects, so if you're just looking at some sort of hands-on activity to do with reindeers, you're probably gonna get overwhelmed with a bunch of crafts that are not really STEM. So if you're looking for something focused on, well, how can I apply the knowledge of drag, with a hands-on project? Well, that might narrow it down, and then you might find some really great activities that you can do that are engineering design based, but incorporate science principles of drag. So really think about what it is that you're trying to teach. How does it tie in what you've already taught before so you can apply those? And then it hopefully won't be as overwhelming. You can also go to vivifystem.com and we can help you out with our scope and sequence and give you an idea about what you can be teaching and when.
And we also have a resource page that is our vetted list of STEM organizations and curriculum providers and products that we think align with our vision and version of STEM education. So that's also a good starting place. I think whenever you do a Pinterest search or Google search and you're like STEM activities for elementary, that is a really scary place to be.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Maybe you'll come to our site, so maybe that's a good thing,
Maybe.
but
I don't know. I kind of
comes
see.
back to the first question of how do we define STEM? And so you're going to be flooded with the craft stuff, but also science lessons and math lessons and robotics. And you have to figure out what do you mean by STEM and just defining it a little more. So we agree, though, a lot of stuff out there.
So
Okay.
I'm doing
Oh,
a quick Google search for STEM activities for elementary. I just wanted to see where we are. It looks like there's a lot of good websites that pop up, like Science Buddies that has some great STEM projects, or Codable. Little Bins for Little Hands, they have a lot of activities that are great too. There's some good videos. So maybe it's not as overwhelming, but definitely a lot of craft stuff out there. So
and that kind of brings up the point of okay, so you Googled STEM activities for kids and you did a STEM activity. Like, what was the point? And then you're going to do another STEM activity next month and then another STEM activity in February. Where are you going with that? And that's the issue that we bring up a lot is the learning progression of STEM. We're putting these design challenges on repeat or craft activities and kids are like, "Yay, I love STEM. I got to build something cool." And then you get to my research, which is faculty and engineering, and they're like, sorry guys. Engineering is a lot more than building a tower out of spaghetti and marshmallows. And actually, one of the teachers in our workshop said she had I won't say which company, but it was an aerospace company that would come out every year to their school and have a STEM day. And every year they did spaghetti marshmallow towers. And she's like, can this engineering company come up with anything else to promote engineering? And so that's the challenge right now is it's just like we've gotten this routine and we still don't really know what we're doing and what we're promoting and we got to get out of that.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. But what do you do if you don't know where to go?
And that's what we have standards for, which is like the goals of the curriculum. So we have nicely defined standards for science and math, and now there's technology standards that a lot of states are adopting. But the problem with STEM is where does it fit? So are you going to CTE standards? Are you supposed to align with science standards? So it's state by state right now, and even district level, trying to decide like what is the point of STEM? Is it a separate elective? Is it integrated in the classroom? So I guess I don't have the answers here. We are trying to build our own learning progression with a framework for engineering learning to help teachers define that.
I think that's a good answer. Yeah.
Okay.
We're working on it, and
Yeah,
we think we have some good stuff. So if you have specific questions, you need help, just email us. We'd be happy to help. That's what we love to do.
agreed. Okay. So now I have a question from, oh, okay, Suzanne. Math is easy. Tech is okay. Some sciences are great. Engineering is a help. This is her what are your greatest challenges response.
I feel like that needs to be a poster
Yeah.
with some
It even
graphics.
had like a winky smiley face.
There you go. That's what I was picturing.
Yep. And then
Ooh,
her
okay.
experience is I may be teaching STEM to grades 3, 5 this school year and have never taught this before. So it sounds like she was probably a classroom teacher, other subjects, and now is like, STEM. Okay. And then she breaks it down by the acronym.
I love it. Okay. Well, I think she's already most of the way there. She's got all of the ingredients. The last part, the engineering part, is just bringing it all together. Uh, and a good lesson will walk you through that. So we've got you, Suzanne. All you have to do is check out our website. We've got a whole bunch of free lessons in our free resource library. So sign up to be in the STEM Explorers membership. It's all free. And you can check out some of those lessons. And then if you have questions about it, reach out to us. And we'd love to help you see what it is that's engineering that might be a little intimidating, which I think we hear that from a lot of teachers is saying, engineering, what even is that? Uh, and I think a lot of people, it stems from a lot of people getting it wrong, that engineering is just building things, when actually engineers don't actually build things, which is a common misconception that I'm always trying to break down with my students.
But they're building things in our STEM class. That's
They
also
are.
confusing.
But the focus is on the design and the testing and the data collection. That's what engineers really do. The building is just a means to get there.
And also it depends on your company. Like you could also be part of the building of the prototype. That's for the testing of the thing, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, an airplane or a ship or something. I saw like a picture of a prototype of a like submarine, and I was trying to use it as an example for teachers because in the literature, a prototype for like a middle school classroom is like a 2 liter soda bottle, and it was like this little pneumatic device. And I was like, guys, this is what a prototype means for an engineer. And it's like this massive tank, like the neutral buoyancy lab, right? Like huge tank and this like crazy submarine that was still a scaled version of the big thing. I don't know if it was like the Navy doing this prototype, but we're still like way beyond what real engineering is like. And I think that's part of this big misconception around engineering. And we talk about building and also inventing. Like when you're doing something in your classroom and you're making a keychain that is not engineering, because that's like the thing you're going to use and put it on your backpack. That's very different than like the prototype or model of a
Mhm.
submarine.
Yeah, and I wish that every school had more support with the design part, because I think that is the intimidating piece. Teachers know how to teach kids how to think and how to apply math and science, but the actual design part, I think, is really kinda scary. And didn't you recently go to a school that had a really cool way to do that?
Yeah. Um, so it's the school here near Boston. And what was cool about it is I went there to observe a class that was doing a design challenge. And we leave the classroom and we go to this like basement room. And I'm like, what is happening? And it was this entire makerspace lab. They called it the design lab. And it had tools that we had as undergrads, like laser cutters and of course like 3D printers and all this saws, and the kids are using them. um, but what was fascinating is one, this wasn't just for the science or engineering teachers. This was a lab for all teachers just like a library, you reserve a time. So you're like, okay, next Tuesday, I'm doing this activity and I would like to send my students to the maker space or the design lab. So it could be like a history teacher. And it wasn't the history teacher's job to know how to use the tools. They just use it as a resource. And then that lab had their own full-time coordinators that managed the space and helped with the curriculum side. And so if a history teacher is like, we're talking about values and like who we are as a person, and then they had to build something or code something that represented them, kind of like Sparks that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is so cool because it takes the burden off the teacher to be that technology expert and even engineering expert and put it on this coordinator. And that's just their job, is to figure out how do you bring technology and coding across the school day. So I wish
love that.
a lot of teachers, I mean, I wish every teacher had that kind of support, because that's one of the reasons STEM is often failing in a school, is because you bring them all the tools, you give them a one-day training, and then you hope they figure it out. And then that person leaves or retires or moves on. And then the next teacher's like, what is this? And they shove it in the closet, and because it's just overwhelming. You already have all these other responsibilities. So I think that was just a really nice model to see of how it could work realistically if you have the right resources and admin that support it.
Yeah. So I would say that if you don't have that, don't stress out too much about trying to add in all the hardcore technology and all the things. If you could use us as that resource too, because we know how to make engineering accessible in the way that we've designed our lessons. So you don't have to have a 3D printer and a laser cutter and saws.
Like, I didn't have that experience going into engineering, and honestly, it would have not helped that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's
I think
cool because it helps them think about those tools in a sense of like cross-disciplinary, and how engineering and design kind of like infiltrates all the things. But you're right. Like, I want to make sure that point is clear. Like, all of our lessons are craft sticks and paper and hot glue guns is like our most flashy tool.
right. Yes. I don't have that at my school. I am a STEM teacher. I have a 3D printer. I've used it for one lesson in the last 5 years where I had kids design a bridge, which was really cool, but I feel like it's unrealistic to have them do too much with too much technology, where I want them to focus on the other things. So don't stress about all the shiny stuff. Come to us and we can help you out.
I agree. All right, ready for one more question?
Let's do it.
Okay, Stacy says, my experience is they've taught engineering camps many times for local universities. She's taught one for 25 years. And next year I'll be teaching STEM to all of our students K-6 in a specials rotation. So her greatest challenge. At this stage, it feels like it will be creating lesson plans without a curriculum specific to STEM. I don't want to overstep when pulling from the science and math curriculum from the classroom teachers.
Oh, but that's what STEM's about. That's not overstepping.
Yep.
That's
They
what
will
you
love
should
you.
do. You are the rock star, Stacy. That's what you should be doing, is incorporating what the kids are already learning and applying it in your STEM classroom to enrich, because that's what enrichment is supposed to be, is enriching what they're already doing in the classrooms. So way to go. Go you. You're doing it.
Yay. That was easy.
I do. Well, she's been teaching STEM camp for 25 years, though. Who are these people that have been doing STEM before STEM?
So engineering camps. So I guess engineering has been around as an outreach, and that's actually how it started. I'm not going to go through my dissertation again, but chapter 1 was a history, and that's where it all began, was universities doing outreach because not enough students were applying to their engineering programs. So they started running these camps, and then that turned into what we know as STEM.
And that is kind of how we started. It was that
Exactly.
one was it E-Day or something?
Yep.
We went to this is when we were in undergrad, aerospace engineering students at Texas A&M, and there was a E-Day. I don't even remember how we got to do that, or yeah, who let us in?
Showed up,
We
huh?
just showed up at an elementary school and we launched rockets, like, made them out of toilet paper tubes or something
Mhm. Yeah.
and construction paper, and then we had the, like, PVC pipe attached to a 2-liter bottle, and the kids jump on it. They're like stomp rockets,
Mhm.
and we were like, "This is awesome. We wanna do more of this."
That's where it all
Little
began
did we
with
know.
rockets.
Yes. So yeah. And real quick, Natasha, maybe this is not a quick question, but thinking back to you said you didn't have all the stuff that kids now have at some schools, like that school in Boston, a tech lab or design lab. What was it that you did have growing up that maybe did help you prepare for engineering?
Is this like a part 2?
I don't
Stay
know.
tuned
Should
for the
this be
next. I
a
think this should be the next
teaser?
episode because I wanna
Okay.
think about it. I think that's a really good question
Mhm.
because we can really speak to that because we did engineering and can think about, like, what was actually important because there was no STEM at least in my school, in high school, I didn't have any
Mhm.
kind of STEM class besides your basic math and science classes.
And no STEM clubs. That
Yeah.
wasn't a thing.
Mm-mm. It wasn't. I was in the student council.
Ooh, let's talk more about the things that we were
Okay.
involved in.
Okay.
Okay, stay tuned.
All right. But until next time, STEM space out.